Welcome to crypto, also known as Six Flags Magic Mountain, as today it was an absolute roller coaster. $3 trillion swings in the stock market. Bitcoin went from $74,500 all the way up to $81,000 before falling down again. What the hell is going on? We have that entire situation broken down for you. Also, we're going to focus on some altcoin sectors, what they're doing, and what we can expect, and which projects in those specific sectors are going to make you the most money. And the question that is brought up, it feels like every single week, is the bull market really over with new information, new data? What is on our minds? What does Rob think? Is he finally ready to capitulate that it is a bear market? I don't know. We'll talk about that and much, much more in today's episode of Sin City Crypto. Let's go.
Hola! It's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to Sin City Crypto, home of the entertainment-focused cryptocurrency content where we take old, boring, stale information, repackage that whole thing up in a fun, sexy way. You know what? I agree. The Ethereum ecosystem is in a bear market. ETH is no longer in an upward trend. Ethereum's in a bear market, bro, but not Bitcoin. Not
What is wrong with you, man?
A lot is wrong with me.
Yeah.
What a day! What a day today, man!
What a day! You know, what a day. Crick Cats, $5 super chat. You want to take that one, Rob? You want to read what is that?
Yeah. So Crick Cat says, didn't Rob never say below 80K again? You know, I did say that. You know, at the same time, I did rewind that thesis, and I rewound it on Friday. On Friday, I said, guys, I was like,
I thought
you know what?
You, like, rewound the footage to see what you said.
No. On Friday, I came out and I said, guys, look, there's been a decoupling from the NASDAQ, and I am concerned. I was like, if we get a red day on Monday from the stock market, I would expect Bitcoin to collapse. And I was like, I don't know. Hopefully we get a green day on the markets. And then what happened was the NASDAQ, or basically the index fund futures, came out yesterday. You know, we're showing yesterday that they were down 6%. NASDAQ was down 6% last night pre-market. More than it was on both days on Thursday and Friday. You had the S&P 500 down 6%. Global markets also. The EU was down 4 to 7%, depends on which country. Germany straight took a shellacking. It was absolutely disgusting.
Slow down.
Go ahead.
Slow down. Grab the wall. Okay, real quick. HBAR interesting. Said, I'm freaking out, man. I'm going to sell out my HBAR. That'll be the dumbest thing you can do. But hey, you do you. It's your money, my friend. Let's start with this here. Okay. Well, from futures minus 1,300 to open minus 1,000 to then plus 300 to then down 1,000 again. And now we're only down 299 points. NASDAQ is in the green. The Russell 2K is down and the VIX is only up 2.2%. What in the F is going on here, man? What's going on? Look at this chart, okay? This is the 15-minute on the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We closed on a gap down from Friday's close at 38,296. We opened at 37,900, okay? This was a 4% 15-minute candle. This was a 3% 15-minute candle. The next one was a 2.5% 15-minute. Now, guys, these are 15-minute candles, okay? The volatility coefficient so far today on the Dow Jones is between 7 to 9%. Either way, 7 to 9%. That is trillions of dollars fluctuating up and down. Why? Well, let's talk about, Rob mentioned the overall markets. Here are the markets. Now, this was posted, I believe, yesterday night, okay, because the overseas markets were opening. Here are all the markets that hit circuit breakers today so far. China, Taiwan, Japan, Russell futures, Australia, Singapore, plus the VIX was up 15%. And then you had this. This is what caused the massive rally in the stock and Bitcoin market.
And then it was,
yeah,
not true.
And I got some context on that, but this was Bitcoin on the 15-minute. Okay. This was, let's find BTC this morning. We came back down to 75.8. Then we had a 3% 15-minute candle and consecutive 15-minute candles that took our price from went from 75 up to $81,000. So a 7% move in a matter of like 45 minutes. And then it came crashing back down and looks like Bitcoin is breaking out of a falling channel, falling wedge-ish. No indicators or no indication from market side for A, at least on the 15-minute as far as what's happening there. But this was a big one, okay? This is what turned the stock market from negative 1,000 points to positive for a very small fraction of time. This was posted by Unusual Whales at 7:16 a.m. Pacific time this morning. Trump is reportedly expecting to announce a 90-day tariff pause. This is when the markets rallied, okay? This was the original clip that Reuters took the headline from and ran with it. And this was a clip. Listen to this clip and tell me if this sounds like, yeah, he is going to do a 90-day tariff pause.
Will you do a 90-day pause? Would you consider that?
Or Bill, yeah, I think that the president is going to decide what the president's going to decide. There are more than 50 countries in negotiation with the president.
That was a clip. And from that...
He did say, yeah.
Really?
He said, yeah. The president is...
This was a $3 trillion clip right here because the markets moved from super deep in the red to slightly in the green. And then you had confirmation breaking. No one at the White House is aware of Trump considering a 90-day tariff pause. The S&P 500 just fell 230 points from its high in 10 minutes. That's the S&P 500. Now, before we discuss this, I do want to give a big thank you. Today's show is brought to you by Stake and Stake.us, the #1 social casino in the entire world. And if you're in the U.S., guess what? Good news. Unless you're in like a handful of states, you can go to Stake.us, create an account, and play some of your favorite games, whether it's slots, scratch-offs, poker tournaments, baccarat, craps, roulette, whatever you want to do. Have a little fun, get some stake cash and redeem it for crypto. Make sure to use the link in our description. Also, they're going to give you a little bonus when you sign up as well. Big shout out to Stake. With that being said, the shenanigans this morning, what is there one thing you took away from it? What I took away from it is my thesis has been I'm 60-40, we get another drawdown, okay? And
on index
like one more
markets?
low on everything. Specifically Bitcoin. One more drawdown. My range is 69 to 71K. That is my range. I think that'll be it. And then everything goes up. I've also been in the corner of, hey, I think that the markets are overreacting. And once the tariff stuff settles, the markets are going to absolutely rip. And I think what we saw this morning gives me more confidence that that latter thesis is 100% out. It's not 100%, but it's pretty.
For me, Bitcoin over the long term, the 10-year horizon.
Yeah.
Like,
let's talk about 2025.
No, I know. I'm just saying that. Like, I'm gonna preface this with saying that Bitcoin over the long term, over the 10-year vision, we know where Bitcoin's going. We know it'll get to plus $1 million over 10 years, right? Now, in the short term, there is a correlation to the stock market. Now, there are times where the two don't move in sidestep. They don't move in tandem.
Like on Friday?
like on the second half of
Thursday,
the week.
Friday.
Yeah, Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
So Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You had 3 days where the Bitcoin price and NASDAQ price weren't in sidestep. And then, boom, the gap got filled, right? They came back in line, right?
Yeah.
And
Bitcoin missed the stock market. He's like, please, can we couple it?
yeah. So, and all it really took was just a pre-market open, it wasn't even open for trading and European markets to tank. And it was like Bitcoin finally lost that support. And so if you ask me, what do I think is likely going to happen with drawdowns with the price of Bitcoin? It really comes down to what is going to happen with the global economy, with the stock market, with the S&P 500, the NASDAQ.
Already.
Oh, that's the thing. There's a lot of uncertainty. Like what we're seeing is volatility. And in turn, what you're seeing out of Bitcoin and crypto is volatility. Even in gold, you're seeing volatility. You had all-time highs and you had a big sell-off. Like
Treasuries were going up today, too.
Everything is volatile.
And oil was falling.
Everything is volatile. This is not just crypto. It's not like all of a sudden the crypto degens here like trading and everyone else is just lollygagging about their day. On
Robin, just to like kind of hammer your point, okay? Just to put it in perspective for those of you that might not understand the volatility we saw this morning. Imagine the entirety of the crypto market going to literally zero and then back to its current prices in a matter of 45 minutes. That is what happened in the stock market today. $3 trillion swing one way and swing back the other way.
So if you ask me what is going to happen to crypto, like as I mentioned, in the 10-year horizon, sure, it'll be fine. But in the short term, if you are looking like, hey, what's my portfolio look like this year or next month or next 6 months or 90 days, whatever it is, it's all dependent on what happens with this overall economy. And so there are two sides of the card here, coin or whatever you want to call it, two ends of the table. And on one side, you have recessionary fears and you have a lot of the smartest people, well-respected people in Wall Street and, financial gurus in the stock market and economics. And they're saying, they're like, hey, there's a high probability of recession. And JP Morgan Chase upped their recession outlook from 40% to 60%. You also have, who was there's just name after name, people talking about recession. And so that's a real option on the table. Now I can have my own opinion. There's other people that say, hey, look, this tariff scare is acute. There is only it's
definitely acute.
Yeah.
It's absolutely acute. And I actually have a video.
But but there is merit to the other side. There is a lot of leverage in the system. And if global trade is disrupted and slows down and there is a shock on prices due to inflation because of supply and demand dynamics changing, it's hard to argue against the fact that there's no way that there's recession's not on the table. And so you could see further and further drawdowns, and there could be hedge funds that are overexposed and leveraged that aren't prepared for this big pullback. They might go under. Yeah.
Well, the problem is,
and hedge funds are the ones that got into trouble back in 2008 financial crisis, and yet here we are again.
You know what the problem is? That could be the perfect storm for the Fed to have to do QE. Is the margin calls that are going to be coming to these hedge funds if the stock market continues to draw down. But on the flip side, the banks and the Fed are having a credit crunch. And so the liquidity is not there. And so how do they, because the QT that's been going on the last 2.5 years, so what do they got to do? Print money, lower interest rates, get the yields down.
But here's the thing. The Fed moves slow. Fed lowers interest rates after things collapse and explode. And so they haven't lowered interest rates yet. And even Jerome Powell came out last week and said, we're good. We're not going to lower interest rates. Things are good. And so I'm just saying that, like,
Rob, you think if there's three big banks on the verge of collapse, you don't think the Fed's going to do an emergency something?
I'm not saying they're not, but I'm just saying right now it's not. That's not what's happening. And right now, what's happening is that the stock market is crashing. So that's what I'm saying. If it's not bad enough right now, then you agree that it will get worse for that to happen.
Hell yeah, brother.
So you're making a case that the Fed is going to print money, that quantitative easing is going to come in, that borrowing is going to become easy. You're all the things that you're listing have not been put on a platter by Jerome Powell. He has not come out and said, hey, we're going to do these things. If anything, he's done the opposite. But yet the market is crashing. And the only thing that's going to trigger the Fed to move quickly in those things is if things literally are exploding. if things are on fire and we draw down way worse than we already are. And so for me, it's kind of worrisome because there's only two ways out on this situation. One is that the market capitulates more. We go into a deeper recession. Things start to break. And then things are on fire. Everyone's running for the exit door. And then the Fed comes in and bails out the U.S. economy, prints money. And who knows? Maybe that doesn't even fit. Maybe that doesn't even fix the situation in the short term. A lot of times when the Fed, or, historically when the Fed has come in and lowered interest rates, it still takes some time for it to bounce back. When 2008 financial crisis happened, 2009 wasn't the greatest year on earth. It wasn't until 2010, 11, and 12 that things came back.
This morning, what we saw, it gave me so much optimism and hope, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. I sat there this morning, and I watched the news come out that the 90-day, we always talk about, it's not a bull market because all the good news doesn't move the price, or it's definitely a bear market when one small piece of bad news completely drops the price. And it kind of gives you this confirmation bias of, I already thought we're in a bear market and now everything's kind of same idea with the stock market. When that announcement came out or that fake article came out that Trump is looking to pause the 90-day tariffs and to watch the stock market move $3 trillion the opposite way and go from minus 1,000 points plus in the Dow Jones to positive in a matter of minutes, that told me right there that as soon as either A, the markets get used to the tariffs, they see the thing play out for maybe 3 months or 6 months, then they'll be fine and things will start going back up again. Or if the negotiations happen, we saw what just the reciprocal tariffs going into play, what that did to the global markets across the world. China shut down, Japan shut down, Vietnam shut down, Taiwan shut down. You don't think those countries are going to come to the table? Because guess what? They don't have the power of the printer. They can't just print their own money because they're not their world reserve currency. They can, but they face inflation in their home. And so we're coming into a scenario. Trump's got the leverage. I think it was like 50 countries that they're talking to. So either he capitulates, the market gains. He stays still. The other countries don't do anything. And the markets settle in and like, okay, fine. This is the new thing. Now we know what we're going to get. Inflation numbers for 2-3 months come out like, inflation's not really moving that much. Okay, let's resume. Or the other countries capitulate, which is what we're seeing, which is exactly where I'm headed to next.
I would say the one last thing there. I agree the markets are moving, but they're moving to headline numbers. And at the end of the day, if companies are not doing well, the economy will also reflect it. And now we can sit here and say, the price of the S&P 500 drew down off the news, and now it's back. But at the end of the day, when quarterly reports start coming out, if Ford is down because a lot of their production is done over, in Mexico and in Canada, or if Mercedes, the U.S. stock
Get
is
off
down,
the Mercedes, bro. Okay,
I'm just saying that
your Mercedes.
if company after company after company is slowing down because of the cost of tariffs, then at the end of the day, the headlines is not going to be what is going on with the tariffs. The headlines are going to be layoffs for this company, layoffs for Walmart. I mean, think about how much product Walmart imports, how much products Target imports. Those cheap prices that you see, those great value discounts, those aren't American-made products, I hate to tell you. And as each of these companies have lower and lower profit margins or quarterly reports, or their valuations drop, it's gonna take a big toll on the U.S. economy, and then you're gonna have layoffs. And so at the end of the day, we can sit here and say, look, the stock market's good, it bounced back soon as Trump said X, Y, Z. But at the end of the day, we are still in a very bad spot. There is not a lot of sunshine here in this calendar year. Now, I will say that a lot of the European Union's ready to come to the table and negotiate, that there is other foreign nations, Vietnam. And so there is light on that end. But if things don't change with the tariffs,
they're going to change. There's no way they don't change. It'll change one way or another.
Well, if they don't, I'm just saying that, like, I don't know, man. I genuinely don't know. Trump has got an ego. He campaigned on tariffs, and to tell me that he puts in tariffs and doesn't remove them would not be the craziest thing in the world. The dude literally said this is Liberation Day. He titled the day. And so if you think he's just going to eradicate all of the tariffs that he put in.
H&R Block makes filing your taxes really convenient. File in person.
H&R Block, you don't pay us money to products.
So to think that it's just a foregone conclusion that he will remove all the tariffs that he just put in after labeling Liberation Day and making all these charts.
You don't feel liberated?
And then talking about no crime in the casino.
You don't feel liberated?
What I'm saying is that I don't, until I see it happen, I just don't believe it, bro. And then, like, even if he removes the tariffs from there, you still got the 25% tariffs on cars. You got a blanket 10% tariffs across every single country, no matter who it is. And so everything just got 10% more expensive that comes into the U.S.
Relax. I got a video.
Good.
That's actually not true. But I'm not, like I said, there's smarter people than me, like Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He actually breaks down what impact the consumer gets on tariffs, and we'll share that video. But first, as Rob mentioned, people are coming to the table. Why? Because the U.S. is the largest consumer in the world. European Union offers the United States to abolish reciprocal tariffs on industrial goods. This is the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen.
We stand ready to negotiate with the United States. Indeed, we have offered 0 for 0 tariffs for industrial goods, as we have successfully done with many other trading partners, because Europe is always ready for a good deal, so we keep it on the table. But we are also prepared to respond through countermeasures and defend our interests.
They have zero leverage. But it's always this. There's good and then there's bad. So this is what Trump said about China. Trump says that if China does not withdraw its 34% increase above their already long-term trading abuses by tomorrow, the U.S. will add an additional 50% tariff on China. April 8th, tomorrow. So another 50%. And then here are the list of the countries that are currently in negotiation with the United States for the tariffs: Israel, Japan, the UK, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, India, South Korea, Australia, Argentina, so on. There's about 50 of them. So we'll see how it pans out. But listen to this clip. It's a minute and a half. This is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Now, Scott Bessent is a legend on Wall Street. He's worked with the likes of George Soros and Stan Druckenmiller. He was actually part of the crew that brought down the British pound and what they did. So he knows how the markets work. Listen to him explain to Meet the Press the impact of tariffs and what they have on the consumer.
Kristen, what I like is data. And if we look at data from President Trump's first term, and there's a big study that just came out from a group of economists, mostly at MIT, that showed that a 20% tariff on China led to a 0.7% tax or price level increase over 4 years. I think that's pretty good. If we can take in 20% in tariffs and it's a 0.7% increase. And Kristen, the little publicized story this week, everyone wants to look at the stock market going down. You know what else went down? Oil prices went down almost 15% in 2 days, which impacts working Americans much more than the stock market does. Interest rates hit their low for the year, so I'm expecting the mortgage applications to pick up.
Well, just to be very clear, though, I mean, during President Trump's first terms, the cost to Americans was nearly $80 billion in new taxes due to his tariffs. Prices did go up on everything from washing machines to tires.
Well, no, but let's go back. The aggregate number was 0.7, so we can discern the individual things. Also, households saw real net wages go up. So if wages go up faster than prices, which is not what happened over the past 4 years, that's why the bottom 50% got eviscerated.
So 2018, 20% tariffs on China, and the U.S. consumer only saw a 0.7% increase over 4 years. Now, I'm not a tariff expert. I don't know the exact numbers, but assuming Scott Besson knows a lot more than I do. Just interesting.
The problem is that the tariffs in 2018 were directed at China, and now the tariffs are directed at every single nation. And so every single thing that gets imported is now getting tariffed with exceptions, which...
But to be fair, I agree with you. But to be fair, a lot of our shit comes from China.
The 17 to 20% of it comes from China. And, and that's just in the blanket, actual completely done product. You buy an American-made electronic, a lot of the components inside of that, piece of equipment is going to have Chinese parts in it. So it's going to be hard to find products that aren't captured in some way by a Chinese product, right? And so even if you're a manufacturing company, let's just say you're manufacturing lumber, right? The trees grow here in the U.S. The workers are all here in the U.S. The factories in the U.S. But let's just say you need new saw blades and a new warehouse. All of these items. Let's just say that you're constructing a new lumber mill. Most of the products that are even inside that establishment are going to be Chinese. So what I'm saying is that you can't escape it. Free trade. There's too much interwoven, connected trade routes that lead to the U.S. and they're all getting taxed. And an 85% tax to Chinese goods is if you want to see another red day, that'll do it right there. If you want to know what another red day looks like in Wall Street, that's it. And then also, everyone's over here clapping and cheering that the EU said that they're ready to negotiate. But at the same time, did they miss the second half of that comment? We're also ready to fight back.
They ain't gonna do shit.
But here's the thing: if demands by Donald Trump are unreasonable, they're not gonna bow down and be like, yes, Trump, yes, whatever you say, we want no tariffs, yes. No, if he's unreasonable, if he's like, give me Greenland or something stupid like that, they're not gonna go to the table. And so at the end of the day, are they willing to negotiate? Yeah. Is Donald Trump gonna ask for something that is not that is not doable? I don't know. Perhaps. I don't know, man. Right now, that Donald Trump is ready to go scorched earth.
You sound scared, Robin. Are you scared?
No, I'm looking at the reality. The reality is,
bro.
Donald Trump has watched the markets crash, and he's come out and said,
"We need to take."
I don't care.
No, he said there's sometimes you need medicine.
Yeah. The thing is he doesn't care about the markets. He cares about his ego. He says, hey, look, I implemented a tariff strategy. This is what it is. It's good for America. I know best. Markets are crashing. I don't give a fuck. And so if the markets are crashing, he's over here in his own little world saying hey, this is exactly what we need. Don't worry about it. Don't pay attention to the stock market. This is fine. I know what I'm doing. It doesn't sound like a guy that's sweating bullets maybe I should come to the negotiating table. Maybe I should take this deal with the EU. Maybe I should pause. No, this dude is going full steam ahead. He don't give a fuck. And that's why, I see that. I know people like that. I know people with that energy that they're they will self-destruct before they admit that they might not have made the best decision. Don't you know people that are just so arrogant? And I'm not calling Trump arrogant, but I'm just saying that I just don't think that to blindly say he's going to negotiate with the EU. He's going to drop tariffs there. He's not going to put tariffs on China. He's going to obliterate the whole thing.
Did you go on a hunting trip with Tim Waltz?
Bro, I'm just telling you, guys, if you don't think that it's possible there's a recession coming, then wake up. I like to look at both ends of the table. Do not like to get blinded. I do not like to get blinded because if you get blinded, you're gonna be in a position that you're not expecting. So for me, I got two things on the table. One, there's bull market. We come out. You could have an ease in tariffs. Hey, we negotiated with this country, this country, this country, this country. You know what? Tariffs didn't end up impacting prices that bad. Whatever. We have some kind of tax incentive. He cuts capital gains taxes. Who knows? It could be very. There are lots of different scenarios that get us that we could see prosperity in the economy. At the same time, be aware that this could drag out. We could be in a bear market for a year. If you're going to ask my professional opinion, I'm still making a case for the bear market in this current scenario. I do think that we're in a bull market. I do think that we have a pullback. I think the markets are uncertain, and eventually they'll find themselves in about 3 to 6 months. We'll be back out of this swamp. How confident am I in that? Not that much. Not so much that I'm like 80, 90% certain. Like, no, I would say, like, if I had to put a percentage on it, I'd say 60% confident that we come out of this perfectly fine after a little bit of a drawdown and a little scare in the market. And then I think there's a 40% chance that things break. Economy does not go the direction we expected. Crypto takes a downturn, and you should be prepared for both scenarios. You should look at both scenarios as a realistic option.
Listen.
Because if you're going to say here and say, I'll never die, I'm not going to take out life insurance. Look how many days I go to the gym and I eat well, so I need no health insurance. That is foolish.
You actually do need life insurance. Very important. Listen, I bet you by the end of the summer, Bitcoin will be trading above $125,000.
I agree. If I had to put a
Then
bet,
what are you talking about?
because what if it doesn't?
Then it doesn't. Then we're going to pick up jobs at McDonald's.
All I'm telling you is, viewer, look,
let me
all I'm saying is be ready for things not to play out like you want.
Listen, dude, bro. So what do the people do that are sitting on their portfolios that are down 60%? Should they sell and get out?
What I'm telling them is to look at the market, and it could very well be in a long downturn. And so right now is not the time to take risks.
How long is
and
long
so
downturn?
if your message is in 3 to 6 months we'll be bounced back, we'll be at 125K, then if that is true, then you should put every penny you have into high risk assets.
I don't have pennies. I'm broke.
Well, I'm just saying, you like if I knew for certain that Bitcoin was going to be 100, and I'm just saying hypothetically.
But no one's certain.
I understand that, but I'm just saying hypothetically, if I knew for certain Bitcoin was going to 125,000, I'm probably going to take a second mortgage out on my house and put it all in a Solana. That's just if I knew. If you gave me a little snapshot, you said Bitcoin 125,000, and you said September, I'd be like, or no, what's 3 months from now? Yeah, we'll say July 125. I'd take out a second mortgage, put it on Solana. However, I don't know, dude, and that uncertainty and the realization that it could not happen, the opposite could happen. You could see a $55,000 Bitcoin. And if that's the case, you take out a second mortgage to buy Solana, that was a dumbass idea. And so that's what I'm trying to get through to the viewer. Like, David, I'm not trying to combat you. I'm just
you are. That's all you do is combat me.
I'm just trying to explain to the viewer that I've been burned so many fucking times in crypto that, like, and it's always like, what is the conversation? Well, I didn't know that this was going to happen. I didn't know that this company was going to go under. I didn't know that there was tariffs. I didn't know that this exchange was fake. I didn't know. Like, what I'm saying is that be prepared for the I don't knows. Because right now, I don't know if the bull market is coming in 3 to 6 months. I just genuinely don't. Be ready for it. That's all I'm saying. Be prepared. Look at both ends of the table. Like, that's it, man. Like realize where we're at.
We're always ready, bro. That's why we don't invest more than we can afford to lose, right? Speaking of losing, I lost a couple trades last night, but made some money back as well. I had a nice short trade on MakerDAO. Printed like 1,400. Let's go, baby. All right. A lot of new people. You know, I saw that we got a redirect from BitLab Academy. So big shout out to Kelly Kellum, his entire team, and all the community from BitLab. Welcome to Sin City Crypto. If this is your first time, this is what we do, baby. We have fun. We combat each other. We share some important news and give our thoughts, and so we hope you're having a great time. If you're new, say hello. We'll make sure Rob gives you a nice personal shout-out. Let's talk about the Fed, okay? Actually, before we talk about the Fed, Rob, let's talk about prices. Would you like to take a look at the markets?
Yeah, let's take a quick peek. So Bitcoin has been moving around quite a lot this morning, as mentioned at the start of the show, at 79,000. So we are a lot closer to that $80,000 mark, which kind of spooked the market. So I remember, yesterday before the collapse, we were at 83,000. We saw the drawdown all the way down to 74,000. And, well, back almost up to 80. $8,000. So I'll keep an eye on that. But anyways, let's get into the altcoins. So what's up today? Fartcoin up 18%. There's been a lot of memes on this. You know, SP 500's down. Fartcoin's doing well. It seems almost to be catching traction here. Like, I don't know. You know, in the top 100, down to number 90. Would I put any money into it? No, but would this surprise me if this one like 4X's? It seems to have some weird little narrative here that's like, hey, this is bucking the trend. Now, let's take a look at what's down. That's what we really want to know here.
Bro,
All right.
I think Bitcoin's about to explode. Good.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think it's going to find massive resistance at 80,000.
Here, I'll just take a look at this. Okay, so this is BTC on the 1 hour. Okay, and those of you that like patterns, what are we seeing here? This is like a perfect inverse head and shoulders pattern, and we are right at our neckline. And so if this pattern fulfills, this would be now the measured move on this. Now, of course, it's not guaranteed. Could be less, could be more. The measured move from a break of the neckline puts us at 83.5. And so there's something to keep an eye on. We take a look at market cipher B. Our momentum waves have crossed to the upside. RSI is up, and we're still above our midline on the anchor on the VWAP. And then if we throw on market cipher A, we did get this continuation signal here on the uptrend. And so keep your eye on BTC for a long, because we're right at the neckline. It looks like we're breaking it right now, like in real time. So what I would do though in this market condition, I'll wait for a breakout and a retest and enter on the retest. And that retest, depending on where we land, is between 78.9 and 78.7. So 78.7 is to call it 78,950. And so keep your eye on that. Really nice long setup here for BTC. Sorry, I was looking at the chart and I saw that. Pretty good.
Yeah, I think, just to kind of...
Obviously, if Trump comes out and says some dumb shit, it'll be invalidated. So just
didn't you say he's gonna like speak here at some point?
Trump?
Yeah.
No. No. I was talking about JP Morgan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So getting into the back into what the markets are looking like. So on the I want to show you guys the 7 days. So this is on the 1 week, and so we can really see what's been hit the hardest. As of lately, you got Jido, Tuncoin, Immutable, KuCoin, all down over 20%. Trump token down 20%. Jupiter, and so the list is deep on projects that are down over 15%. And you look, where is Ethereum? I won't go on a long one today, I promise. But you got.
I lost a grip on an ETH trade.
You got Bitcoin at 2% down, and then you got ETH at 7%. This seems to be more of a reoccurring thing, is that as Bitcoin sells off, ETH sells off harder. As Bitcoin rallies, it just never regains that it never bounces back in the same amount. So say Bitcoin went up 2%, we wouldn't see Ethereum up 7%. It's kind of where I'm getting at here. That it's losing dominance, and you take a look, and you guys know how I feel about it, but when you compare it to Bitcoin, and you just look at on the 1 year, it's just getting worse and worse. The top line here is Bitcoin. This is on the 1 year, and on the bottom is Ethereum, and so the value of Ethereum versus Bitcoin is just, the gap is growing. And you could sit here and say, well, at some point it's going to come back, so buy now. But you could look at this chart with Bitcoin Cash.
Robin, you were saying you were bullish on ETH at 1,800. You should be way more bullish on ETH at 1,500.
Well, that was before the tariffs and the economic situation. And then now I feel even less comfortable. But before the tariffs and the shock to the market that had, I didn't expect a big drawdown. And so if when I was looking at Bitcoin sitting above 80,000, and the threat of tariffs, because it sounded like when we first started this whole tariff thing, it was like, hey, we're going to throw tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Stop letting, close the borders up. Stop letting in fentanyl. They both kind of said, okay, we're doing our thing. He paused the tariffs. I thought that was kind of like what we were going to see. And then lo and behold, Liberation Day comes in, tariff for you, tariff on everybody, China, triple tariffs on you. Like, it was just like, I'm sorry, I knew tariffs were coming. I knew the threat of tariffs were coming. I didn't realize how scorched earth Trump was going to go. Anyways, now I feel even less confident about Ethereum. I really do, man. Is there any, I'm just curious. If we're 55 years old and we're sitting in a coffee shop.
You're only 5 years away, dude.
Yeah, shut up. If I'm 55 and you're like 53, or, you know, whatever the age difference is, we're sitting at a coffee shop, and Bitcoin is,
as long as it's not Starbucks,
and Bitcoin is at 100 and, you know, or say 1.3 million, 2.5 million, I don't know, some crazy number.
Or as Michael Saylor thinks,
and we're sitting there, you know, drinking our coffees, you know, eating a bagel or something, and you're like, telling you, man, this ETH is about to break out against Bitcoin. I'm like, bro, it is still at $4,000, man. Like, when are you gonna let it go? At what point? Is there any time frame? I'm like, here's a genuine question. I'm just curious on your
genuine question because you're just a hater.
Is there any time frame that you say,
yes,
if there's no breakout in ETH, you give up on it? Is there any time, or are we in 2027 and you're like, guys, I'm telling you, now is the best value. ETH's at $900. Like, at what point do you say, you know what?
If RWAs are here, actively on chain, and ETH is still below $5,000, then I'll quit. I'll quit on ETH. I'll sell all my ETH. I don't care if it's at $20 or $2,000.
But here's the thing: there's no on switch for RWAs. It's a slow, progressive movement.
Okay,
right?
when the number hits 3 trillion or 5 trillion, and ETH is still down, then okay, I'll quit. I'll give up on ETH. That's my bet on ETH is institutional real world asset tokenization and decentralized financial.
That's not even what got it. That's not even what got it to its market cap.
I don't care what got it to its market cap. It's a new world.
Yeah,
it's a new world, my friend. You need to adjust. Don't be scared. It's gonna be okay. ETH is gonna make us some money.
ETH,
maybe not
if
you.
There's
but
anything that doesn't adjust, it's ETH. It is adjusted to nothing. It takes 7-8 years to adjust, and now you're like, ETH needs to adjust. Like, bro, it can't even keep up with just speed. Like,
speed is very fast. Speaking of speed, I show speed. Great guy. Actually met him one time. Super nice. All right, a little bit on the markets, and we'll talk about the Fed. So this number, by the way, was $2 billion of liquidations, and it was 70-30 longs to shorts, so not as big of a tilt one way as you would expect. You also had this as well. Whale, pun intended. A whale got liquidated for 67,000 ETH, Robin, worth $100 million as ETH dropped below $1,650. That is an insane amount of money to lose on a trade. Oh, my God. Then you have this. Now, this is a video, but I'm more interested in the context of what Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano, said here. He said, you can compress a spring, but remember it bounces back. The markets seem hopeless and broken, but the bull market will be spectacular. I still remain confident in a 250K Bitcoin within a year alongside a rising tide for everyone else. It's just going to be a bumpy ride.
And I agree. I agree with his sentiment. And my whole thesis coming in was just like, hey guys, like, I agree. This is still my best case scenario. What I think is going to happen, more likely. But I just wanted to reflect on. There's no certainty here, and there's and the other side happening where, hey, we don't get a new all-time high out of Bitcoin. The likelihood of that happening or not happening this year, basically not getting it, it's growing. That's all I'm saying. Just be aware of it. It's more likely now.
I think what we're seeing now.
Don't you agree that one question? Don't you agree that it's more likely this week that the chances of not breaking over 120K on Bitcoin, it's more likely now than it was 2 weeks ago, right?
Wait, what? Of Bitcoin not crossing 120?
Yeah, I was just saying. 2 weeks ago, if you would have asked me, what's the chances of Bitcoin crossing over 120K? I'd be like 90%. Right? I would say 80%, 90%. If you ask me the same question this week, I'm a lot less.
I know. Well,
60%.
I don't mean to sound dumb here, but obviously Bitcoin's price is a lot lower, so it would take more. Unless
It's not that much lower. It's from 83,000 to 80,000. Like, it's really not that much lower.
I don't know. I think, but your thesis of this bull market bleeding into 2026, I think what we're seeing now, I think that thesis is going to come true as well. We went from a 7-month forward-looking, like accelerated market, to now maybe we're kind of on par or even back a little bit with the tariff thing. But I'm telling you guys, I am telling you right now, once the markets either adjust to the tariffs or there's some positive news on tariffs and that thing is settled, you are going to see an absolute explosion in the markets. You will see an absolute explosion. You'll see 7 straight days of Bitcoin, just like 8 to 10% days. And just look at what happened today in a 45-minute span when the markets thought Trump was going to pause tariffs for 90 minutes or for 90 days. Just think about that. A little funny here. So this is a friend calming down his buddy after seeing his crypto portfolio down 75%. Dry heaving. My portfolio is down. I can't do it anymore. All right, let's talk about the Fed. Donald Trump is at it again. He wants Jerome Powell to cut rates. And I'm telling you guys, if we do get a rate cut, that's going to be a catalyst that'll signal to the markets that, all right, the Fed's going to do something. We get that coupled with the whole tariff thing, kind of adjustment / going away, whatever the case is. It's all a big setup. So he pretty much said, look, interest rates are down, food prices are down, there's no inflation, blah, 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 blah. Jerome Powell, cut the rates. And then there was some news today that there was an emergency Fed meeting. Just to clear the air here, it's not an emergency meeting. It was already planned. And they do this pretty much every other Monday. So it's not out of the ordinary. It's not like, oh my God. But at the end of the day, it's still a meeting that's happening. And the next meeting is, I think, May 7th or 9th, that the Fed could potentially cut interest rates. Speaking of the Fed cutting interest rates, this is what the CME believes. Just refresh the page so we can get the most accurate info. 35% believe we'll see a 25 basis point rate cut. Only 65% believe that we're going to stay flat. And so the CME is very rarely, if ever, wrong. And then you have this. JP Morgan analyst Bob Michel said on Bloomberg what he thinks the Fed will and should do. Let's take a listen.
Stock market crash.
Bob Michael, the global head of fixed income at JP Morgan Asset Management, writing this: both the administration and Federal Reserve are behaving as though the market moves are business as usual. We cannot believe that the Fed will wait until something breaks before responding. Bob joins us now for more. Bob, good evening.
Happy to be here.
GFC.com, the pandemic. Frame this moment. What is this for you and the team?
Well, I was reading Larry Summers earlier, who pointed out that Thursday and Friday were back-to-back the worst market drops, except in 3 other instances: the '87 stock market crash, 2008 the financial crisis, and then 2020 COVID. So this is a historic period, and as you point out, we're down another 5%. I would tell you, in the other 3 instances, the Fed stepped in immediately and cut rates sizably. So I think for now, if you go back to Friday, the Fed can talk tough. They have to be looking at this. I don't know if they can even make it to the May meeting before they start bringing rates down.
At the same time, nothing.
Interesting, huh? I don't even think they could make it to the May meeting without bringing rates down. This is JP Morgan, head of assets. What are your thoughts
Yeah, I mean,
What do you think? How would the markets receive that?
We
get a rate cut.
I mean, obviously, we get a rate cut. It's bullish. Where the markets are rallying. It's not, especially if it's a surprise rate cut, right? If it's one that isn't like that everyone isn't expecting it. But going to that CME chart that you showed earlier, 65% says there's going to be no cut. And so you said, hey, the CME is rarely, if ever, wrong on these. And so right now the CME is telling you there's going to be no rate cut.
65-35.
No, but I'm saying, but which one is a 65? And so if you say the CME is never wrong or rarely wrong, if 65% majority of
when I say
CME probability.
When I say it's never wrong, it's when it's at like 98 to 99%.
I'm just saying, if it's rarely ever wrong, CME is pointing to nothing. Jerome Powell literally last week said, hey, we're not.
Bro, there's a toss-up right here, bro. 65-35. In the Fed and the CME, it's a toss-up. Usually it's like 95 to, 100%. So,
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about key events this week from the Kobeissi letter. Key events this week: reciprocal tariff responses likely begin on Monday, today. Fed meeting minutes on Wednesday. March CPI inflation data on Thursday. That is happening. Initial jobless claims on Thursday. March PPI on Friday. Consumer sentiment data on Friday. And so just some things to keep an eye on, some potential volatility in the markets. I want to check in on this Bitcoin setup here. Looks like we're getting rejected at the neckline. So something to keep an eye on. Again, wait for a breakout and then a retest of the neckline, and then probably should be a pretty good entry point for a long on BTC. This was interesting. Did you see this?
No.
Okay. Crypto attorney sues the Department of Homeland Security to uncover identity of Bitcoin creator Satoshi Nakamoto. That is Meta Lawman. So, the United States government claims to know the answer of who Satoshi is, but isn't talking. So today, I sued the government to find out exactly what it knows through the Freedom of Information Act. And so this, of course, has a lot of the Bitcoin community up in arms. Like, what are you doing? Leave it alone. What are your thoughts here, Rob? You okay? What's that?
I don't know, dude. I don't like the government's not gonna fold to Meta Lawman. I'm sorry.
What do you mean? It's FOIA. Freedom of Information
The
Act.
United States government's not gonna be like, Meta, no, please don't sue us. Like, no.
The court can order the government to turn the paperwork over.
Sure. I'm sorry, man. I mean, how big is Meta Lawman? Like,
Lawyer.
click on his
Dude's a lawyer.
like.
He's got 50,000 followers, bro. What? What is so funny? What is so funny?
United States government, Meta
It's
Lawman.
not about the government. It's not a freaking thing measuring competition here. It's a law. They put an FOIA request. Then if the court grants it, they have no choice.
Okay. But you do realize that the United States government.
Look, the guy went to Vanderbilt, all right?
They're gonna have to represent somebody's got to represent the US, and they don't have a small budget, right?
The guy is
they're gonna have
lawyer.
a team of lawyers. They're gonna have literally a team of lawyers. The United States' greatest and finest of douchebags. They're gonna come in and crush this man. I'm sorry.
He went to University of Virginia.
Am I the only one here that is like? How about you, Rocco? What is your thought? Does Meta Lawman stand any chance, or do you think it's an overall just checking the victory box?
The government is gonna have his name changed to Meatloaf Man.
What? Meatloaf Man?
He does look like Meatloaf.
That's rude.
Kind of does look
Why
like.
are you guys being
Meatloaf.
rude to Meta
Oh,
Lawman,
they're gonna
man?
change the name to Meatloaf. There's no chance the government is gonna release any document. If they do, they're gonna release some random paper. That's it. Case closed. Yeah.
You guys know that's not how it works, right?
It's definitely worked like this.
All right. I don't want to spend too much time on this. All right. What do I want to talk about now? I want to talk about this. So, a narrative and a sector and a vertical that I've kind of been beating the drum here on this show is stablecoins. Have some exposure to stablecoin projects. And I'm not talking about Tether and freaking USDC, obviously. Take a look at these headlines, okay? So first, you have AVE demand rises as interest paid by borrowers surpasses $1 billion. According to data from Token Terminal, AVE borrowers have paid over $1 billion in interest on ETH. Such a spike in interest paid is a sign of increasing volume, user demand, protocol usage, and more importantly, a hike in DeFi maturity. Then you have this, Curve Finance processed record 34.6 billion trading volume in Q1. Now, Curve has been another project that I've been harping on this damn channel. And then you have this as well. Franklin Templeton leads a seed round into stablecoin startup looking to outsource yield generation for users. They've led an $8 million seed round into CAP, which is a blockchain startup looking to launch an interest-bearing stablecoin and accompanying lending market. Other investors include prominent financial institutions such as Susquehanna and Triton Capital. I've been telling you guys, Convex, Curve, MakerDAO, AAVE, Asymmetry Finance, Athena, these are all projects you need to have some level of exposure to if you truly believe that institutions are going to drive this market because retail is broke. What are they spending their money on? Stablecoins, RWAs, artificial intelligence. Those are my top 3 narratives. Any commentary here, Robs?
Don't you think artificial intelligence is a retail play, though?
Not necessarily, no.
From crypto, I think it is. I don't know. I don't know if at the moment, at the current environment, I don't think that blockchain AI is suited for institution level playground. I think it's being built, but I don't think it's there. And I don't know how soon it'll be built. I will say, though, everything you said is spot on. I do think that RWAs and Ethereum ecosystem with DeFi is looking promising. I still think it'll underperform Bitcoin. I don't think that ETH will be dead. And I don't think that if we see the $1.3 million Bitcoin in 15 years, that ETH will still be at 4,000, but maybe it'll be up to 9 or 10 at that point. I don't know. Anyways, the gap is widening. And so I'm concerned value will increase, but I think that the number one asset is Bitcoin, and it's going to be hard to compete with that. There'll be winners, but you got to find them, man. You got to find them, and I just don't know. I don't know about DeFi, man.
You sound scared again.
Don't
be scared. It's going to be okay.
I'm scared of Ethereum, man.
Also,
genuinely.
Speaking of being scared, if you own a business and you're scared of your networking, your cybersecurity, and your IT solutions not being up to par, well, there's a solution, and it's called CAMS. They are our longest tenured sponsor, and there's a reason for that. They're our only IT company sponsor, and that is because without them and their support, this production and the quality you see on your TV or your mobile phone would not be even close to possible. So big thank you to CAMS for sponsoring today's show. If you run a business, you want to maximize your own networking, IT, and cybersecurity, there's a link in the description, or go to bluewiretech.com. Big thank you to them.
And I did want to give a little shout out to those new in the chat. Always see Javi, Megan, Darren, Jordan, K-Jam, Nana, Biz Knowledge, James Nellis, Jonathan, Y Melda, Luda, Granny's Garden.
Luda.
And then you got Shafia and 2-in-1.
Shafia.
Hola! Welcome, Sin City Crypto.
With that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. Rocco. We appreciate every single one of you. Don't fear not, because the roller coaster ride is almost over, guys. All right, we're almost at the exit. We're going to leave, and the prices are going to be great. Come back tomorrow at same place, same time for another episode of Sin City Crypto. We'll see you tomorrow.
Sin City Crypto. Everybody know we here for entertainment and info. Gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in for big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fraction. It's Big Rob, David. I spit the game, but they gave it. Name the coin, it's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners. Special shout out to the well members. Buy the dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin.